Welcome to this closing plenary of the 15th European Public Health Conference. And I think we have all seen a great conference. It's difficult to say clearly as a chair that this was a good conference, because clearly I'm a bit biased of it. But taking the objective numbers, I mean, we had an all-time high of the number of participants, and I think we all felt how eager we all were to come back after the pandemic to really meet each other, and how tired we were thinking of last year's European Public Health Conference only on Zoom, which is a totally different experience. I personally, clearly being also a bit biased about the topic of the conference, strengthening health systems, improving population health, and being prepared for the unexpected, also felt that this worked quite well, and that we had very interesting, very well-organized plenaries diving a bit into these topics. So I felt it was worth exploring this topic also as a public health community, and we all felt, as I had explained in my introductory words, how important it is to marry the two camps of the classic public health and the health systems, and including healthcare. Today the conference comes to an end, but we still have an exciting program, and we have two speakers lined up, and as usual we have a small we then have the presentation of Best Poster Awards and so on, and we will invite you to next year's, the 16th conference. So that is the program, and as it is so packed, we want to start right away, and the first speaker on the list, as you see, is Christian Drosten. And at least in Germany, he would need no introduction. I mean, I have known Christian before the pandemic. He's involved in global health, I'm involved in global health. So he could have talked about global health today, but then we decided, I mean, he developed the first PCR test right at the beginning when COVID was not yet a topic in Europe in late January 2020. And so within Germany, he's well known, but we also know that outside Germany, probably many of you have also heard about him. In his day job, he's director of the Institute of Virology here at the Charité University Medicine. And the reason why we invited him, I said global health would have been one option, which would also be fitting very well to the topic, is that he became not only known for his virology expertise, but he also started very early on with a blog. First weekly, then bi-weekly, so which was then became the source of information for many people about COVID. And Christian wants to talk to us today about this aspect of science communication. And Christian, we are totally thankful that you are here and share your thoughts with us. Please join us on the stage here.
Yes, thank you, Reinhard, for the very nice introduction, and thanks to the organizers for the invitation, for the interest. And dear colleagues, what I would like to do is speak about science communication. So this is not something we do in our professional life normally. It is an integral part for every scientist to communicate knowledge. Yes, we communicate to students, typical forms of communication also include conferences like this one, to which I would like to congratulate you. So I haven't been able to attend much, but I know quite a number of participants who told me about the meeting here. It must have been great. So this type of communication is actually what we are used to in forums like this. It completely changes as soon as you start to speak to the broad public. This ability and willingness to explain knowledge to a lay audience is actually not what we have been trained for. it's not in our professional profile. Nevertheless, science communication became essential in times of the pandemic, as you will have witnessed. Many have perceived communication as a professional intervention, like a medical countermeasure in these complex times. If you think back to 2020 and the first part of 2021, before the advent of vaccines. So in this time, it may in fact have been the most effective professional intervention into the pandemic, to just communicate and explain. Unfortunately, and unlike the situation of a surgeon during an operation, the communicator has to deal with all sorts of professionals and unprofessionals who provide their additional incisions into the patient and apply special ointments during that operation. Correcting these interferences by public messaging seems to be close to impossible. We need to focus on what is actually possible in science communication. So what is this? First, in providing responsible science communication, we have to carefully consider our own role and appearance in the media. Virtually every type of science communication is packaged into a journalistic product. An important principle in journalism is the separation of factual information from opinion. Communicating scientists must guarantee and maintain this separation on their own responsibility, because the journalists who produce these products often don't understand science and they don't see the difference between facts and opinion. Scientists who convey opinions rather than facts can be disturbing to the public. A lay audience normally cannot follow the complexities of the scientific discourse. Self-promotion in the disguise of discourse, a phenomenon aptly coined infotainment by the German author Ralph Bundt, is a behavior that serious science communicators should avoid in any case. Also, scientists are not expected by the public to act as opinion leaders or to be proponent of certain political attitudes. This role is reserved for politicians or for commenting journalists in the public media. Truth and factfulness are the defining features of science for the public. The public, the taxpayer, has a right to receive unbiased scientific information. The task for science communication is to summarize the state of the art in a provable way, as comprehensively as possible, and only simplify to such an extent that the core findings are not lost. Finding the right compromise between simplification and preservation of content probably is the only craft in which the scientist is more competent than the journalist. It is the only mandate the scientist has in the media. Science communication worthy of its name, therefore, can only take place in one's own field of expertise. An active involvement in research endows us with power of judgment, with due criticism, as well as a complete openness towards changes of the state of the art if it occurs and if these changes are scientifically sound. Passively absorbed knowledge, for instance from mere exposure to the literature, does not produce the same power of judgment. Science communicators without an active research engagement really take a journalistic role. They merely promulgate science content, often with a bias induced by their own perception and background as citizens. Scientists acting outside their field regularly fail to apply the checks and balances that journalists apply to content. Good science communication also includes taking care that one's own messages have the right effect in the public. In addition to good format and correct content, this also includes avoiding personalization. The equation of person and message is one of the motives in the attention industry. In this way, the discourse of opinion becomes a confrontation with high quotas. Great damage is done to science communication this way, as conflicts distract from the message and undermine the special communication mandate that science has in the public. The pandemic has highlighted the destructive power that manipulative and deliberately misplaced messages can have. Institutions such as the World Health Organization now warn and act specifically against disinformation. Good and responsible science communication is the most important tool that we as scientists can give institutions in their engagement. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Christian. Maybe you want to add one word. Is this different from advising policymakers? Is this the same thing? You would say this is, or is this a different thing?
Yeah, well, this in fact is a bit different, but I mean, I had the privilege to use a media format that is quite broad and that's in fact received by policymakers all over the place. So here, what I could always say is just listen to what I recorded there. It's what I can advise you today. In other situations, this is not possible. And I guess the biggest takeaway there is to advise politics in writing. It has to be in writing. You can't provide an oral advice there.
Okay, thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We move further with the program, and we become now a bit more familiar. Family-like, and our second speaker is Dineke Zeegers Paget. If I usually say she needs no introduction, this time it's really true. Dineke has been the director of our association, the European Public Health Association, for 25 out of the 30 years which we had it. And Dineke, you are now, no, you're not leaving us, you are moving to a new position within our circles, and it's our great pleasure to listen to you, what you, obviously in 10 minutes, it's difficult to distill your experience of that period. You have the floor, please. And you have fans here.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? So I'm going to reflect on 25 years of EUPHA. I mean, my role in EUPHA. It's a very long time. 25 years ago, it was half a day in the office, and the office was my bedroom. And my daughter was 6 months old at the time. This year, she graduated. She is interested in public health and patient participation, and she came with me to the conference. So, you know, I'm investing in the next generation. But we also have not just one person anymore. We have a wonderful team of committed and experienced and perfect employees and personnel and extras. So, and we also, of course, have a conference that went from 200 participants to over 2,500 participants, which is enormous. So thank you all for coming. But of course, I didn't do it alone. I didn't do it alone with my team. I had very, very good people around me. I had executive council members who were brilliant and supported me and taught me what is important and what is not. I'm thinking Peter Elleback, Walter Ricciardi, Marta McKee, Iveta Nagiova, Natasha Atopadi-Muscat. They all brought their thing to EUPHA, and that made me capable of using them, their advice, and going further than that. We, of course, also had our 26 dedicated sections, and the section presidents, the vice presidents, and the steering committee members are doing so much to make sure that EUPHA is present here, that EUPHA is known in the European Commission, and that EUPHA is known everywhere in Europe and beyond. We also have, of course, support and guidance from our member associations and from our institutional members, as well as our many partners. And finally, the conference participants who come here every year. Well, for the first time in 3 years, we see each other in person, but you know, who come every year really bring extra value to what we try to do. Now, I thought about giving you, a lecture about what a public health professional should be and do, or, what is interesting and what I lived through and what is important, but I decided not to do it. Fortunately, I'm not a scientist, so I can be personal. So I want to share some stories with you. Stories from behind the scenes of the conferences. So the first one is called The Missing Abstract. So in the June meeting, we come together and we always try with each other to plan the program perfectly. which means that the individual abstracts have to be put into sessions. And every session has to have 6 or 8 abstracts. So we start, and we have to make like over 100 of these sessions. And in the beginning, everything goes brilliant. And then in the end, there's always either a missing abstract or one abstract too many. Which means when the team goes home, we have to go through the whole procedure again and make sure that we know where the mistake is made. You don't see that because 2 weeks later, the perfect program is online for all of you to see. But it takes an extra effort. The other thing I wanted to mention is innovation at the conferences. Now, there's been a lot of innovations. I would never stand like this in a plenary hall, but, you know, I'm talking about, for instance, Glasgow 2014. The first time ever we had a workshop, not a workshop, a workshop. So the team took people to the outside and they walked through the town and saying, well, this is important, that is public health. And it was really interesting to see. 2014 in Scotland was also the year we started the EUPHA clan, which was quite funny because everybody, instead of kilts, everybody had a very bright green shawl around them, and we could easily recognize the people who were EUPHA members. Another one in Graz in 2005, there was a workshop on laughter yoga, which was brilliant because, you know, it's very good to do your yoga, it's very good to laugh and be happy. But if you walk past that room, it was like, what's going on there? You know, they're all laughing, there's something strange going on. So that was really good. And then I heard, I couldn't participate in the dinner, but I heard it was the first gala dinner, which was in a marketplace. But I also heard it was very, very successful. So well done. The third one I want to mention is the unfinished venue. In 2009, we were going to Łódź in Poland. And the person who was the chair of the conference and also his assistant, Robert Klarecki, was now working for our organization, said, we have a beautiful venue, it's an industrial building, and you know, it's a hotel and conference venue in one. It's going to be finished on time. We came in June to look at it because we had our June meeting, and to our horror, it wasn't finished. There was like 1 floor of hotel rooms finished, and the rest was still to be built, and we were panicking. You know, is it going to be finished on time? But obviously, with the calm and the, you know, the calm and peaceful way of the Polish, obviously it was on time and it was ready, and it was beautiful. Then I wanted to mention the wonderful hospitality of our local partners. So as I said, every June we have a meeting. We go to the country where we have the conference, and we get beautiful hospitality. And I want to mention some examples. In 2007, and mind you, we're going there again in 2024, the Finnish hospitality was a nice sauna and a very cold lake where you could jump in afterwards to cool down. So quite a nice experience. In 2004, the conference was in Oslo, but we went to a nature, culture, and health center, which was beautiful in the countryside, with horses and sheep and everything. It was a lovely location to have our June meeting. And then, of course, the 2003 Rome conference, we had the June meeting in Siena. Not really in Siena, but the University of Siena, Nico, had organized a beautiful monastery in the middle of the Tuscany beauty with the colors and everything. And we had our June meeting there, and it was really nice. Thank you, Nico. And there also, I had a wonderful road trip with Walter Charlie, because I flew to Rome and not to Siena. So we went there by car, and on the way back, we stopped in all these little villages. And in the one, he would buy the typical red wine, and then the next, he would buy the cheese or the salami. And we had a great time going and seeing all these villages. Last card. So I just want to thank everybody for your wonderful work you're doing in public health. It made my job really great to do. I've learned so much. I made so many friends all around Europe. And I really hope that I can continue for several years as a strategic advisor to EUPHA. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for being a dreamer, because all what we see here today are your dreams becoming true. When you started as an executive director of EUPHA 25 years ago, the size of this conference was slightly over 200 participants. And now in Berlin, we have over 205,000 participants, which is 12 times more. Thank you for your visions and for seeing the potential where nobody else sees it, for inviting people, countries, and topics to public health and to EUPHA that others would overlook and neglect. And I will mention today only 3 examples. The first example is the Open Society Foundation Twinning Project and your vision to establish modern public health associations in Central and Eastern European countries, of which one is my National Public Health Association, the Slovak Public Health Association. The second example is your vision to bring new topics to public health, which materialized also in your inspiration and prompt to establish less typical EUPHA sections, such as law, ethics, and foresight. And the third example is your strive for equity and your support of women in public health. Thank you for your hard work and your commitment, because dreaming is not enough. Without your hard work, all the dreams and visions would be in vain. They would just simply disappear. And also, thank you for your heart, Dineke. We always say that EUPHA is a family, and it is thanks to you. Thank you for bringing warmness, coziness, friendship, and feelings of belonging together to the European public health community. So thank you, Dineke, for reshaping and restructuring the public health in Europe. This is your legacy. And I would like to finish with a quote from a song that I'm sure all of you know. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. John Lennon, Imagine. Yes, we need more people like you, Dineke. We need more dreamers who are not afraid of having big and bold dreams. So goodbye and hello. Goodbye in your position as EUPHA Executive Director, and hello and welcome in your new position as EUPHA Strategic Advisor. Of course, we could not let you go so easily. So thank you once again on behalf of the whole European public health community, and I have also a small present for you to commemorate this moment. Thank you once again.
Okay, well, Dineke, I think you saw from the standing ovation the appreciation from the EUPHA membership. Thank you very much indeed, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. So we now move on to the awards ceremony, and we every year have 3 awards. And of course, we know at this time of the conference, there may not, some of the winners may not be with us, but I'm going to call the names out anyway. So the Best Poster Award, and if you are here, could you come up to receive your certificate? The Best Poster Award is to Alessio Parilli from the Università Cattolica di Sacro Cuore in Rome, who's won the award for the Best Poster, which is the title was Patient-Reported Outcome Measures for Care Quality Assessment of a Breast Cancer Care Pathway. So is Alessio here? Many congratulations. Thanks a lot. Many congratulations. Thank you. And we now move to the Best Abstract Prize, and that goes to Laurie Selim from the Sorbonne Paris Nord University in France for a paper, for an abstract entitled Food Additive Emulsifiers and Cancer Risk, Results from the French Perspective Nutrinet Santé Cohort. So is Laurie here? If not, we will send the certificate on afterwards. Anyway, congratulations to Laurie. And then a particularly special award, at least for me to have the pleasure of awarding it. It is the Ferenc Bojan Young Investigator Award. Ferenc Bojan was a very close personal friend of mine. He was a former president of EUPHA. He was a champion of public health in Hungary, and tragically he was killed in a car crash quite a few years ago, but he made a huge contribution in the early days of EUPHA. And the Ferenc Bojan Young Investigator Award goes to Anna Altova from the Faculty of Science, Charles University in Prague. Congratulations. And this is for your paper, which is the characteristics of women not attending screening and their barriers to attendance in Czechia. So thank you very much indeed. So congratulations to all of the award winners, and with that I would like to say, first of all, before we move on to looking ahead, a word of thanks to those who made this conference, well, the group here in Berlin who made this conference possible, and maybe if I could invite Reinhard and Nino, Reinhard, Busse, and Nino Adelberger to stand up, take a bow, and thank you very much indeed for your contribution, for all of the enormous work that you did in making this possible. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Without whom none of this would have been possible. So can I now ask, as we now look ahead to next year, can I ask Anthony Staines to come up and tell us about what we can expect in Dublin? Over to you, Anthony, and I think you have a video to show us. Can we play the video? It's at the end. Okay. You talk and then.
Before I start, just a very personal word of thanks to Dineke. I've known Dineke now, I think, since I've been coming to EUPHA, and without her support and positive affirmation, I would never have come to the point of bringing this conference to my home city. So thank you very, very much. And thank you to the rest of the team. I have previously organized a conference where it was necessary to do everything yourself, and that is genuinely horrendous. But with Floris, Robert, and their colleagues, so much of what needs to be done to make a successful conference happens behind the scenes. And this extraordinary work goes into it, and we've seen the product of that work here. So thank you also. So why Dublin? Why the capital city of a rather small, damp island on the extreme edge of a continent? Well, Ireland has a number of traditions. It's allegedly the island of saints and scholars. Some add to that scandals. It has an incredibly strong literary tradition. It's known for that rather than for science, though we do have some impressive scientists also. Irish public health has an interesting history. Ireland was a colony for a very long time, and a great deal of colonial practice was invented there, some for good and some for bad. But one of the pieces of good that was invented was a very detailed system of recording of deaths, populations, births, health events. So we have quite sophisticated civil registration going back about 200 years. And people have been using that ever since, including people you might not expect. I think most of you will have heard of Oscar Wilde, who was arguably one of Ireland's greatest playwrights, wits, epigrammists, and many other things. But you may not have heard of his father, William Wilde. And William was an ophthalmic surgeon, who was also a public health practitioner. This was an era before modern levels of specialization. William wrote a series of reports on the health status of the communities, both in Dublin, my home city, and around Ireland after the famine, which remain important source material for historians. And somewhat as you can track back the poor and wealthy areas, say in London or Glasgow, using records from the 1850s, the 1840s, you can do the same with Wiles reports. So he had a fundamental part to play in the invention of public health in Ireland. Oscar's mother was also an interesting figure. She was a poetess who wrote under the name of Speranza, and she was a radical nationalist. William Wilde was anything but a nationalist. And how they got on together, I honestly don't know. Our conference centre backs on to the areas that Sean O'Casey wrote about. Sean O'Casey was another remarkable Irish playwright who, like all too many Irish artists, went to live in England and actually died in Cricklewood because he was not accepted in his home country. Ireland was a very narrow, inward-looking place after we gained independence in 1922, and that has changed, and changed dramatically. So you will find our city there. You will find our city with a really interesting mixture of architecture, of history, layering back from the university I started in, which was founded by Queen Elizabeth I of Britain, and it was explicitly founded to educate the wild Irish, because the Irish problem was a problem even for the Tudor monarchs, as it has been ever since. And we can still see today the Irish problem working itself out in British politics. But our university opened very early to people of all religions. And it opened very early to women. My university gave medical degrees to women long before any of the British universities. And we used to have boats of medical graduates from Oxford and Cambridge, female medical graduates from Oxford and Cambridge, who couldn't get their degrees in Oxford and would come over to Ireland to get conferred and then go back to the UK to work. So the links between ourselves and the rest of the British Isles are tight, complex, and friendly. And if you come, you'll have a chance to see some of them. You'll have a chance to see some of what our city is like. I can't guarantee the extraordinary week of sunshine. I'm not sure exactly how you manage that. I'll talk with you later. But it has been raining all week in Dublin. But perhaps next year, this week, the sun will shine. And you will see the city as perhaps it truly is. And you will find yourselves in a place that has layers and layers of history. My ancestors did not build cities. There isn't a single Irish city that was founded by the Irish. All our cities were founded by Norwegians, Danes, and Swedes, including Dublin. Dublin was originally a port, and it's a city with two names. First is Ballyauchaclia, which means the town of the ford of the hurdles, because you could cross the River Liffey at a particular point there. And the second is Dublin, which just means black pool, so it's exactly the same as the English seaside town, which reflects what was a very sheltered, safe harbour that the Vikings discovered quite early on, and from which they launched raids on the surrounding countryside when they were not setting up cities. So it's an interesting place. We will have the full range of events, but our big focus is on sustainability, food, and agriculture. I was speaking to my colleagues yesterday about the context for this. And the context is really simple. We're screwed. Unless we do something about it quickly, we are really screwed. And part of the public health message has to be, I know nothing about climate systems, absolutely nothing, but I know a fair bit about the consequences of changes in climate. And one of the things we can do as a profession is to identify the causes, the consequences of climate change in our countries as best we can, acknowledging all the issues that Christian has raised, acknowledging the uncertainty, saying, this is what the science says, and bring it across to people in ways that make sense to them. And reaching out through health is an important part of that. And that's why we've chosen this as a focus for our meeting. We're also, per capita, one of the biggest agricultural producers on Earth. We make roughly 8 times the amount of food we could conceivably consume. And in consequence, we export it. So that's an important part of our lives. If you want to get a feeling for what our ancestors were like, they were very like the Maasai in Kenya. They're pastoral herders who herded cattle. And in some ways, we still are. So come and see us. Come and try us out. Come and look at our city. Bring your best science. Bring your best evidence. Bring your clear understandings of public health, of its consequences across the whole span of public health. And I think you will find after the COVID pandemic that the audience understands more clearly what public health is about. They understand more clearly what we mean by the language we use. They understand more clearly what the consequences are of public health information. So come and help us contribute that. A substantial part of our legislature will be there. We've already invited them. So there's an opportunity to engage in some fairly high-level policy work also. And I hope some of you will avail of that. And the video. Renee.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that introduction to Dublin. And I'd like to add my welcome to Céad Míle Fáilte, 100,000 welcomes, as we say in Irish. So with that, can I just also remind you that next year is going to be a very intensive year for public health conferences, because we also have the World Federation of Public Health Association, the World Congress of Public Health, which will be held in Rome in May, led by our own Walter Ricciardi. So don't miss out make sure you have that in your diary as well. Now, before I hand over to Reinhard to close the conference, I would like to thank the EPH Conference team in Utrecht. And could I just ask those who have done made such an enormous contribution yet again to come up? Floris, Robert, Jose, Jessica, and Lydia. And be recognized. Please. Now, every year, so much work goes on behind the scenes. We've already recognized the enormous contribution in Berlin, but year after year, this team make everything look so easy, but behind that, you know, it's like a swan on a lake, and it's moving gradually forward, but there's a huge amount of activity underneath. And I have to say, when one goes to other conferences in this post-pandemic world where they're trying to organize everything and it doesn't go well, then you see just what a difference they make. And I would like to add my personal thanks to you, but I think on behalf of all of us here, thank you for making this possible. Thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to hand over to our host, Reinhard Busse.
Yes, thank you, Martin. There's nothing to say, really. I think, as I said, it was a great conference. Great to see you all here. Looking forward to see you all again next year. Thank you to our plenary speakers, giving us insights to think about this year, next year. Thank you all, and I declare the conference closed. Thank you. Leave.